And welcome back to another video. In this we'll be discussing about errors and exception handling. One of the most important aspects of a coder is to understand how to resolve errors and how to handle exceptions, and that is when even the smallest of mistakes won't stop any kind of project or work that you're doing, right? So this is something that is very important to have as a quality for a good coder. So one thing that we know is an error is something that a Python is not able to understand from us, right? So that is why the Python throws an error. It is not something that is bound by the rules of a Python interpreter. So now we need to understand that there are certain types of errors. Now first thing would be a syntax error, right? So I will comment this. So the first thing is called a syntax error, and the syntax error is nothing but it is an error in which we are making mistakes in the formatting of the code, right? So there's a particular format that Python follows. For example, there are certain set of rules of how you need to define, let's say, a variable, or how you are going to use the for statement or the if statement. Now that is a syntax error. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an error purposely, right? So let's say if, and before that we'll define a variable. Let's say variable is equal to 1000, right? If variable is less than 2000, variable, let's say print variable is less than 2000, right? So this is a pretty simple straightforward code, right? So if my variable is less than 2000, it's going to say variable is less than 2000, and yes, the value is. And if I run this, there should be no problem. I'm getting variables less than 2000. But now for example, let's clear the output, and if I forgot to give this particular colon, right? So now I have an error. So my whole file is now in red. That means that I'm not able to, I mean, the Python is not able to understand what we're actually trying to say, right? So if variable less than 1000, yes, it is correct according to all the rules of Python. But since we did not end it, the Python doesn't know that the whole condition is ended, right? So I can add furthermore conditions here, but since only when I give the colon, the Python understands that yes, this is the condition that I need to check, right? So if I don't give this and if I run this, see, I am getting a syntax error. So that is what a syntax is. A syntax is the physical appearance of giving instructions to the Python that this particular statement is what I'm giving, right? So for example, if I'm giving an if statement, this is how I write it. This is the format of how an if statement is written. This is the format of how a for statement is written. So this is how the syntax error is coming right here, right? So hope you understood what the syntax error is, and now we'll go to the next set of error, which is the logical error, right? So logical error is something that is correct according to Python's rules and logics, but it is not the answer that we are hoping for. For example, if I need, let's say, sum is equal to 0 and I have two variables, right, a and b, right? So I need to create I need to print the sum of those two variables. So what will I do? I will print the sum is, and I'll print the variable, I mean I'll print the sum, that is a plus b, right? So if I do this, there should be no error, right? So the sum is 19. It's pretty straightforward. But by mistake, if I give a minus b, right, and I give the run, so sum is -1, so that doesn't make sense because both of my values are positive, but I'm getting a negative number. But the thing is, I have given the sum and I'm expecting the sum, but according to the code I have given as the difference. So that is a logical error. It's an error from the human side, right? So this cannot be captured by Python because Python doesn't know that you want the sum. It'll do whatever you tell it to do, right? So this particular error is called a logical error, right? So moving on, we will look at some of the exceptions that occur in Python, right? So what is the difference between an error and an exception? An error, when it is wrong, it is always wrong, but exception is not like that. An exception is when you have a set of rules and it works for, let's say, 100 test cases. For 2 or 3 test cases you might not be able to arrive at a particular answer, right? So that is an exception. Like, it's the literal meaning of the word. You have a certain set of practices, but one set of practice is not giving you the right answer or not giving you the expected answer, and that particular execution is an exception for compared to all the other times when when the answer was correct and the code executed well, right? For example, I have a, let's say, division, right? I'm going to do division, so I'll get the answer as quotient. Quotient is equal to a divided by b, right? So I've defined my a and b here, and I'll get the quotient here and I'll print the quotient. The quotient is quotient, right? So what I'm doing is I'll run this, and the quotient is 0.9, which is 9 divided by 10 is 0.9, and that is pretty straightforward and correct. But if I change my value of b to 0, right, now there is no error in the code, right? And I know what I want a division, and a division is what I'm going to get. But if I run this, I have a 0 division error, which is division by 0. Now this is an exception where the answer is not coming because the whole code is correct, but 0 is the only exception where I'm not able to divide it, right? So this is the difference between an error and an exception. So, but this is not an error from my side, right? So my program shouldn't stop. My program shouldn't stop with an error. My program should continue to work in a proper way. So how do I do that? So that is called exception handling, right? So what do we do is we put this whole thing inside a try block, right? And once we catch an exception inside the try block, we use the catch method to display that particular exception or to give a set of instructions to follow whenever that exception is being caught. In Python, the try block is given like this, right? So try and the indentation, right? So this is the try block, and once you catch an error you need to use this except, right? So except and 0 division error. So if I find a 0 division error, I will print cannot divide by 0. I will save this and I will run this, and instead of getting an error, I get the proper output. Whenever I'm getting a 0 division error, I've given the instructions as print this, right? So now there is no error in my code. So this is how you handle the exception. So I hope you understood what is an error, what is an exception, how to handle an exception, right? So thank you so much for watching, and we'll meet in the next video.